Welcome to World Knowledge Channel. In the modern world, military power is measured not only by the number of soldiers or advanced technology but also by the ability to deter nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons, with their terrible destructive power, have become a symbol of global power and control since they were first used at the end of World War II. Let's find out which country it is through this video. 1. That is Russia. Russia possesses a lot of nuclear weapons. Although economic sanctions have partially neutralized the country's efforts to modernize its military, Moscow still maintains a wide range of weapons, including a huge nuclear arsenal. With nuclear weapons like the RS-28 Sarmat and an underwater drone called the Status 6 multi-purpose ocean system, Russia can now wreak far more havoc on any target it sets its sights on than it did during the Cold War. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction appears to have become the only effective means of preventing major war between the superpowers. Russia now maintains significantly smaller nuclear stockpiles than it did at the height of the Cold War. However, while the United States has allowed some of its nuclear arsenal to become obsolete, Russia continues to rely on nuclear weapons as a means to achieve its geopolitical goals. To ensure that countries adhere to limits on nuclear warheads and missiles, new START includes measures for both sides to monitor and verify compliance. By 2018, both Russia and the United States had met their obligations under New START, and by early the treaty was extended for another 5 years in 2021. Both countries' nuclear arsenals also include hundreds of shorter-range nuclear weapons, which are not covered by any treaty. Russia currently has nearly 2,000 of these weapons, about 10 times more than the United States, according to the most widely cited non-governmental estimates. According to the document, Russia maintains that the use of nuclear weapons is an extreme measure and will be used only in cases of absolute necessity, for which it makes every effort. In a speech on February 24, the day Russia began its special military operation in Ukraine, Putin spoke of the main threats that Western politicians have been creating for Moscow year after year, by gradually expanding NATO toward Russia's borders. The Russian president said NATO expansion was a life or death matter for Russia, calling it a threat not only to Russia's interests but also to the country's very existence. 2. United States. The United States currently has 420 intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, each carrying a single nuclear warhead, and 240 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, each armed with multiple nuclear warheads. Of the approximately 5,000 nuclear warheads of various types, 2,150 are on active duty and nearly 2,850 are in reserve. In addition, about 3,500 warheads are in storage. The number of land-based ICBMs is organized into 3 brigades: the 90th Brigade at Warren Air Force Base, Wyoming, the 91st Brigade at Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, and the 341st Brigade at Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana. Each division has 150 missiles controlled by 5 launch control centers. These ICBMs are equipped with 300 kiloton W-78 and W-87 warheads to increase the ability to destroy targets, while the 170 kiloton W-62 warheads were removed in 2010. The Air Force Global Strike Command, AFGSC, controls all ICBMs and heavy bombers of the U.S., formerly the responsibility of the Space and Air Force Command. The concentration of strategic Air Force nuclear weapons under one command is to thoroughly correct the unfortunate error that could occur. According to the Biden administration's budget request, the UK is added to the list of countries that are investing in infrastructure at special weapons storage sites, joining Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands and Turkey, which are countries where the US stores about 100 B-61 nuclear bombs. The Pentagon confirmed that the upgrade will cost $384 million over 13 years, with a focus on security measures, communication systems and facilities. Hans Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists, FAS, said the upgrade could take place at the bunkers at Lakenheath Air Base, 100 kilometers northeast of London, which is home to the U.S. Air Force's 48th Fighter Wing. The 48th Fighter Wing has traditionally operated F-15s, but it has recently been in the process of replacing its F-15Cs with F-35As. The ultimate plan is to create 2 F-35A squadrons at Lakenheath to operate alongside 2 other squadrons already equipped with F-15E Strike Eagles. Both the F-35A and F-15E are capable of carrying the new B-6112 nuclear bomb. 3. China. The People's Republic of China has developed and fielded weapons of mass destruction, including chemical and nuclear weapons. China has conducted nuclear tests since 1964, and successfully tested a thermonuclear bomb in 1967. Nuclear testing continued until 1996, when China signed the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT. China later joined the Biological and Toxin Weapons Convention, BWC, in 1984 and the Chemical Weapons Convention, CWC, in 1997. The number of nuclear warheads in China's nuclear arsenal is a state secret. There are various estimates of the size of China's arsenal. According to the Federation of American Scientists, China had an arsenal of about 260 warheads as of 2015, the fourth largest among the 5 nuclear weapons states recognized by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or according to the SIPRI Yearbook 2020. China has a total of 320 warheads, the third largest in the world. According to some estimates, the country could more than double the number of warheads on missiles that could threaten the United States by the mid-2020s. Due to strict secrecy, it is difficult to determine the exact size and composition of China's nuclear forces. Estimates have varied over time, with a 1984 Defense Intelligence Agency summary estimating China's nuclear arsenal to include between 150 and 160 warheads. A 1993 U.S. National Security Council report estimated that China's nuclear deterrent consisted of 60 to 70 nuclear-armed ballistic missiles. In 2004, the U.S. Department of Defense assessed that China had approximately 20 intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of targeting the United States. In 2006, a U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency estimate assessed that China currently has over 100 nuclear warheads. As of 2011, China's nuclear arsenal was estimated to consist of 55 to 65 ICBMs. In early 2011, China published a defense white paper, which reiterated its nuclear policy of maintaining a minimum deterrent with a commitment to no first use of nuclear weapons. China's ambivalence about keeping its nuclear deterrent at a minimum, coupled with the continued deployment of 4 new nuclear-powered submarines, has raised concerns about China's nuclear capabilities. 4. France. France's significant increase in its nuclear deterrent appears to be a warning to Russia at a time when tensions have reached unprecedented levels in Europe. The West fears that nuclear weapons could be part of the Kremlin's plans if Russia's military campaign in Ukraine stalls. The main purpose of the tests is to enable France to develop nuclear weapons capabilities, develop, test and modernize nuclear weapons, evaluate the effectiveness of nuclear explosions, improve the safety of nuclear warhead design, maintain the nuclear armament industry, improve production facilities and test the effectiveness of new nuclear warheads. France currently has SSBNs Le Triomphant, Le Téméraire, Le Vigilant and Le Terrible, which were put into service between 1997 and 2010. Each can carry 16 M51.2 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs. The nuclear submarine base said that 2 additional SSBNs have left the base on the Isle-Long Peninsula. The 2 ships will join another submarine to patrol the Atlantic. Normally, France deploys only one of its SSBNs on patrol. Although France has stated that these missiles will not be used in normal circumstances, it has always aimed to ensure that its nuclear deterrent is available at all times in the context of increasingly unstable European security. France's nuclear forces are mainly based on the Navy and Air Force, with a priority focus on the route from Europe to the Mediterranean, the Gulf and the Indian Ocean. The main purposes of the tests are to enable France to develop nuclear weapons capabilities, develop, test and modernize nuclear weapons, evaluate the effectiveness of nuclear explosions, improve the safety of nuclear warhead design, maintain the nuclear armament industry, improve production facilities and test the effectiveness of new nuclear warheads. 5. United Kingdom. In the early 1960s, Britain's nuclear force relied heavily on its V-Force strategic bomber fleet, which included the Avro Vulcan, Handley Page Victor and Vickers Valiant. A study by the British Ministry of Defence estimated that, like France, Britain would need at least 5 ballistic missile submarines to maintain an effective nuclear deterrent. This number was later reduced to 4. In a bid to have a greater say in nuclear matters, Britain announced last year that it would increase its Trident nuclear warhead stockpile by 40% to 260 warheads. This was the first increase since the end of the Cold War. In the 1990s, RAF Lakenheath had 33 underground bunkers, storing 110 B-61 bombs, according to FAS. The silos have been out of use since the US moved the weapons in 2008, ending more than half a century of maintaining its nuclear stockpile in the UK. At the time, many believed the B-61 gravity bomb was obsolete and hoped the nuclear powers would dismantle it. The UK Ministry of Defence has not yet commented on the upgrades to the weapons storage facility mentioned in the US budget. We will not provide any information on this issue because it involves the storage of nuclear weapons, a British official said. Initially, each missile was equipped with a single British warhead. Later, an improved version of this missile, the Polaris A3TK, replaced the single warhead with 2 Chevaline warheads, plus penetration aids. At any given time, dozens of British nuclear missiles are ready to fire within minutes of warning. Although it does not have the strong strategic nuclear deterrent capability of the US, the Royal Navy's ballistic missile submarines are always capable of preventing any surprise attack from the enemy, as well as carrying out a century-long mission to protect the country from the sea. 6. Pakistan. Shortly after Pakistan conducted its first nuclear test, the 28th of May 1998, children in schools across the country sang and danced. Towns and cities hoisted Pakistani flags to celebrate the event. It was a proud moment for an economically weak country struggling with sanctions and tough US arms control. Along with photos of then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, a prominent figure hailed as Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan, the father of Pakistan's nuclear program. A nuclear power for decades, Pakistan is now trying to build its own nuclear triad, a powerful nuclear arsenal capable of devastating retaliatory strikes. Pakistan has begun the process of accumulating the fuel needed for nuclear weapons, enriching uranium and plutonium. Benazir Bhutto later claimed that Pakistan's bombs had been stored unassembled until 1998, when India tested 6 bombs in 3 days. Nearly 3 weeks later, Pakistan conducted a similar rapid-fire test schedule, testing 5 bombs in 1 day and a 6th 3 days later. Pakistan's growing nuclear arsenal is now controlled by the military's Strategic Planning Unit and is largely located in Punjab province. Islamabad insists the weapons are well guarded and unlikely to be used at will. Figures from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute last year estimated Pakistan had 140 to 150 nuclear warheads, while India had 130 to 140. Previously, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and the Stimson Center, both based in the US, in 2015 assessed that Pakistan had the ability to produce 20 bombs in a year, meaning that this country could quickly become the world's 3rd largest nuclear power, behind only the US and Russia. Not stopping there, according to Reuters, Pakistan is manufacturing sea-launched cruise missiles to complete the nuclear triad. That is, the ability to launch nuclear attacks from land, air and sea. Previously, India had this capability last year when it put the nuclear ballistic missile submarine INS Arihant into operation. This development partly shows that India and Pakistan are clearly participating in a nuclear arms race, threatening to lead to a tragic outcome if the relationship between the two countries does not show signs of improvement in the near future. Therefore, analysts say that it is time for this region to need a nuclear arms control agreement in the hope of keeping things under control. 7. India began developing the Agni-3 long-range ballistic missile with a 2-stage booster structure in 2001. This missile line is expected to have high maneuverability and short deployment and recovery time. However, the development of the Agni-3 missile has not met expectations. India has conducted a test launch of the Agni-3 long-range ballistic missile. The test launch was initially considered successful, but according to many sources, the Agni-3 missile crashed shortly after leaving the launch pad. 7. India. India's missile arsenal is very large and diverse, and they will soon be supplemented with an intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM. India has successfully tested the new Agni-V medium-range ballistic missile 3 times, with a range of up to 5,000 kilometers. At the same time, India is also developing the Agni-Vi with a range of up to 10,000 kilometers. In the future, India will certainly expand its nuclear arsenal. This will not be as fast as Pakistan because India's intention is to use nuclear weapons for deterrence and passive retaliation in the event of a nuclear war with the country. This is in stark contrast to Pakistan's intention to use nuclear weapons on the battlefield and for tactical strikes. India's nuclear facilities also allow it to build a variety of nuclear weapons in a shorter time if needed. India's nuclear weapons development program has not been without controversy, criticism, and even international sanctions. India is not a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, and is not one of the 5 nuclear powers recognized by the treaty. India's nuclear tests in 1974 and 1998 drew international criticism and a series of sanctions. Since then, these sanctions have been mostly lifted and the United States. 8. Israel. We can see that Israel started to join the nuclear club in the 1950s. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion is said to have been thinking about developing an atomic bomb as a measure against Israel's enemies. According to military doctrine, Israel's nuclear weapons would be used if it failed in a conventional war, or to deter hostile nations from launching nuclear, chemical and biological attacks, in order to prevent the destruction of the Jewish state. Shimon Peres, who later served as President and Prime Minister of Israel, cultivated relations with France, which led to the latter agreeing to provide a large heavy-water nuclear reactor and an underground plutonium reprocessing plant, which would turn spent reactor fuel built at Dimona in the Negev desert into the main fuel for nuclear weapons. The naval component of Israel's nuclear triad is a series of Dolphin submarines designed by Germany for the Israeli Navy on the basis of the Type 212 submarine. With a displacement of 1,840 tons, a speed of 20 knots, a maximum diving depth of 350 meters, and an endurance of 50 days, it is believed that these Israeli submarines are nuclear weapons carriers. Dolphin is equipped with 10 torpedo tubes, 6 of which are standard 533 mm for conventional torpedoes, the remaining 4 non-standard, 650 mm. The missiles can be American Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of up to 2,500 kilometers, capable of carrying nuclear warheads, or Israeli-made Popeye Turbo SLCM cruise missiles with a range of up to 1,500 kilometers, which can also be equipped with nuclear warheads. Dolphin is part of Flotilla 7, headquartered in Haifa. They are on standby in the Mediterranean Sea and the Persian Gulf, from where they could secretly launch a preemptive strike against Iran, or a nuclear retaliatory strike. The establishment of a nuclear triad demonstrates that Israel takes the idea of nuclear deterrence seriously. It is unlikely that Israel will declare itself a nuclear power anytime soon, as the ambiguity surrounding its nuclear weapons is to its advantage. It is not known for certain whether the number of nuclear weapons listed above is correct. Israel currently has overwhelming advantages in conventional weapons, but these advantages are to some extent dependent on the regional strategic environment. Political changes could leave Israel diplomatically isolated and vulnerable to conventional attack. 9. North Korea. As we know, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea claims to possess nuclear weapons, and many believe that it does. The CIA assesses that the DPRK also has a significant chemical weapons arsenal. North Korea was a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty but withdrew in 2003, citing the grave situation in which the sovereignty of the Korean people and the security of the DPRK are threatened by the hostile policy of the United States. In 2021, the Korean Central News Agency, KCNA, quoted North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as saying at the 8th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea that the country had completed plans to build a nuclear submarine. The research and planning work for building a new nuclear submarine has been completed and will enter the final examination process, Kim Jong-un said. The North Korean leader also said that Pyongyang would continue to improve its nuclear weapons as a deterrent against hostile forces. KCNA added that North Korea plans to increase the range of its nuclear weapons to about 15,000 kilometers. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called on the United States to abandon hostile policies to improve bilateral relations. North Korea is expected to continue to upgrade its nuclear capabilities. If you find the video useful, please share it with more people and subscribe to the channel. Like, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you in the next video.